Hey y'all, and welcome to Politibrawl. My name is Brian, and Kaitlan Collins makes an absolute fool of herself when she brings Markwayne Mullin on to answer the actual questions of what really happened with our strikes on Iran. Let's dive in.
Do you agree with the assessment from President Trump that the key nuclear enrichment facilities in Iran have been completely and totally obliterated?
Well, I'm not sure I have, you might want to hear from Senator Cotton, who chairs the Intelligence Committee, an answer on the full extent. But we know for sure that their nuclear program was set back considerably, and that is a victory not only for that region, but for our country's national security interests.
You heard the majority leader there saying he has not seen intelligence to confirm that Iran's nuclear program was obliterated. Have you seen any of that?
Well, actually, that isn't exactly what he said. He said you need to ask the question to Tom Cotton, who sits on Intel. I'll tell you the reports that we've received is that this was a complete success. I mean, you think about this, Kaitlan, and I don't understand why this is such a hard thing for CNN or other people to celebrate the victory that the United States just achieved. We had 30 Tomahawk missiles. We had 14 30,000-pound bombs delivered on target and on time. We had no detection, no boots on the ground, complete mission success with Midnight Hammer. And this is a victory that we should celebrate for the simple fact, Kaitlan, that the world is safer because Iran cannot develop their nuclear weapon. And keep in mind, this is a country that is the #1 sponsor of terror around the world. So this should be something that we're celebrating, not something we're trying to bring some division between us on.
And no one is trying to bring any division, and it has nothing to do with celebrating it or not celebrating it, sir. It's a question of what the intelligence shows. So my question is, have you seen intelligence that shows that the nuclear program has been obliterated?
Well, we haven't had the report on this, but President Trump and those that are in that world have said, quite frankly, that this is a complete mission success. I know the initial reports that we have been told, but not in a complete briefing, that has been that it has obliterated their nuclear program. Now, that doesn't mean that they can't start their program again, because you can't eliminate knowledge. They have knowledge, but we know they won't be using these facilities anymore. We know that for a fact.
But in the terms of this report that we are getting from the DIA itself, what it has put together, it says the core components of the nuclear program were not destroyed, and that neither was the enriched uranium.
Well, Kaitlan,
that's more than just the knowledge.
Yeah, but Kaitlan, this is a report from DIA. Now, for your listeners, let's break down what DIA is and what DNI is, which is what Tulsi Gabbard, because I think that's important. Tulsi Gabbard is the Director of National Intelligence. DIA is the Director, or is the Defense Intelligence Agency. They don't have eyes in the ground, they have eyes in the sky. This is a report that was incomplete, that wasn't supposed to be released, and we don't even know where they were finding their findings, because the ICs, the intelligence community that actually have eyes on the ground, eyes on the target, which is where we're getting our initial reports from. Those were the people that were in country. DIA does not have people in country that was providing this assessment. We know that this was a complete success.
You just said the DIA does not do this, but the DIA is part of the Pentagon. The Pentagon is what carried out these strikes, sir. And the director of the DIA is a 3-star military officer who is the principal advisor to the Secretary of Defense, is he not?
That doesn't mean that they have eyes on it. Our eyes on it did not come from DIA. I was in the
intel. You just don't trust their report at all?
Absolutely, 100% do not trust this, because the report wasn't a collective of the ICs, which the ICs, by the way, would go through, which is why I wanted to say this, DNI, which is, it would go through the Director of National Intelligence. For the DIA to put out a report without the collective bargaining of all our ICs, as you said, there's 18 of them, and I can assure you, Kaitlan, we don't have 18 agencies, intelligence agencies, working on Iran. That would be disastrous. We have a few, actually we have less than a few. We have really only one, plus our allies that are working in there, and that did not include any of their assessment. So how could you have a complete report given it from their assessment only, and their assessments are only coming from eyes in the sky, not eyes on the ground?
Well, and we have made clear it's a preliminary report, but this is the only intelligence report that so far has.
Well, then why
has
would
been
you
made
run with it? Because you're assuming. But you're assuming this report is the report, and it is absolutely not even close report. Do you know how many intelligence agencies briefings I have sat in?
Senator, and you said on armed services, and you just said you do not trust the Defense Intelligence Agency's report.
No,
what I said that you're going to bring up with the Pentagon?
No, what I said is I don't trust this report, because I have said in briefings now for 12 years. I was on the Intel Committee in the House. Not one time did we have DIA ever come in and brief us. That was not where our briefings are coming from. In fact, go back and see all the intelligence briefings we've had that's been public and been in private that's been released. Have you ever seen DIA one time ever brief Congress? Ever. One time ever brief Congress? No, they have not.
That last little bit is unusually important because the Defense Intelligence Agency is actually separate from the Department of National Intelligence. They kind of do their own thing, and so they're constantly not at odds, but they're often offering conflicting reports because their intelligence is often a different set of networks than the Department of National Intelligence itself, which is headed by Tulsi Gabbard. So you'd think that they'd be under the same umbrella, but in order for our defense contractors to feel safe about themselves, yeah, the DIA is a little bit different than the DNI. And Markwayne Mullin can't quite say that the defense contractors get their own thing, but I'm not an elected official, so I will. But Kaitlan Collins is doing something that is once again just par for the course, and I find a little bit disturbing. The idea that she's trying to get Markwayne Mullin to say, oh, what's the difference between the DIA and the DNI? Well, they have conflicting reports going on about what's actually happening in Iran. I don't care. I genuinely do not care about the conflicting reports. The reality of the situation is this. We had our own little Freedom Dorito that is the B-2 bomber, which has been around longer than I've been alive. It was developed in 1988, and it flew across the entire globe, released its payload on 3 key nuclear sites to send a message. Iran cannot be allowed to develop nuclear weapons. They can't. All right? They can't. The rest of the Middle East does not trust them with this sort of ability. The rest of the world does not trust them with this sort of extra ability. And for Kaitlan Collins trying to get a couple of extra moments of screen time in order to get Markwayne Mullin to basically explain the differences between intelligence agencies? Really? Hey, y'all. Here's the deal. Gold loves President Trump. Under Trump's first term, the price of gold soared 53%, and the price of silver jumped 51%. Since the start of the second term, gold has skyrocketed even higher, breaking records and even outperforming stocks. Here's what I like about precious metals like gold and silver. They have been used as a store of value for centuries. Governments can't easily manipulate it. They are used as hedges against market risk and, of course, against inflation. That's why I partnered with the amazing people over at Goldco. Goldco is an award-winning precious metals company. They are fans of this show, and they have helped millions of Americans just like y'all to purchase over $3 billion in gold and silver. Right now, you can get a free copy of their 2025 gold and silver kit. On top of that, you might also qualify for their amazing unlimited silver bonus offer. So don't wait on this. Go to politibrawlgold.com to learn more. That's politibrawlgold.com or call 855-644-GOLD. Why? The only reason why is because Kaitlan Collins is inherently a muckraker who cares more about getting more screen time than she does about actually reporting facts. And a good reporter would not need to ask a sitting senator, oh, what's really going on between these two reports? Instead, a good reporter should sound something like this. Fresh satellite imagery released by Maxar Technologies shows significant damage at 3 of Iran's key nuclear sites, Fordow, Natanz, and Isfahan, just days after the U.S. B-2 stealth bombers conducted strikes ordered by President Donald Trump. Again, the B-2 is our freedom Dorito. That thing can fly across the entire globe, and it usually has a couple of men in his cockpit, and they take turns flying the plane. Ladies and gentlemen, it's not like flying out of an airport. It's something completely different entirely. The benefits of living next to Lockheed Martin. In other realities, Iran cannot be trusted with this sort of technology. All right, their neighboring nations do not want Iran armed in such a way. This isn't something that Israel is decreeing and saying that the U.S. needs to help them out because they're our strongest ally. No, this is something that's even more important. And it's important along the same lines of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the two, some of the most terrible things the U.S. military has ever done, made a point that the rest of the world has learned ever since 1945. It is an ugly, ugly calculus. It is an ugly thing to talk about. But the fact is, when we dropped the sun twice on Japan, it showed the rest of the world the true power of these weapons. And the rest of the world has been spooked ever since, and rightly so. We have the ability to destroy our own planet because of our armaments. And we need to act accordingly. That means we all need to learn how to get along. We all need to learn how to do business and how to actually work on the world stage. Because if you don't, and if you want to remain a pariah nation, which Iran still is, which the biggest irony is, I've met a ton of people of Persian descent, and they're fantastic business owners. They're fantastic people. They understand the true nature of their own government, and that's why they left. The young people of Iran don't even like their own government, according to their own internal polling. If you want to talk about leaks to the mainstream media, that should be talked about way more than they leak between the Defense Intelligence Agency and the Department of National Intelligence. Okay? That's newsworthy, but it's not going to get rich white liberals up in arms, so CNN is never going to report it. That's why Kaitlan Collins isn't talking about this in any real sense of the word. The reality is, ladies and gentlemen, Markwayne Mullin doesn't just know what he's talking about. If you ever hear the words Tom Cotton, if you ever hear that name dropped, your ears need to perk up, because that means that this dude who is plugged in. He is perhaps the most plugged in senator in the entirety of that body of Congress. And when he speaks, even the Democrats listen. And Tom Cotton so far hasn't been squawking. Markwayne Mullin, on the other hand, is trying his best to tell these people on CNN what's actually happening, because deep down the people on CNN want to see Trump fail, even if it means international catastrophe. That's what Kaitlan Collins is trying to do here. Folks, my name is Brian. Hope you enjoyed that segment here on Politburo. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Catch you on the next one. Until then, y'all have a good one.